Dutton, we got to learn how to do the countdown. When it says start recording, that's not when you go 3, 2, 1.
We don't do 3, 2, 1 then? They used to
Yeah.
give us like recording in progress. 3, 2, 1, but it doesn't do that anymore. It just automatically starts now.
What we've been doing the show for this is our 99th episode, and
It's
now
never
Hey,
counted down. You're telling me it's never counted down?
no, it's never counted down. Once it
Oh,
said you are recording, we've been recording.
call
Fee,
nonsense
your
on that.
Giants, I had another almost win, right?
yeah, they're good at that. Those
Yeah.
almost wins.
Uh, do you think they're going to be able to catch the Commanders and actually win the NFC least?
No.
No, we'll get more into that on another episode of 3 and Out. Lashana Tova, everybody. Welcome to week 5 of the NFL season on this Rosh Hashanah, New Year's Eve, to our Jewish listeners. Thank you for listening. And I don't know if you're allowed to listen. This is New Year's Eve. You're allowed to listen on sundown. We got another week of fantasy football. I'm back this week. I want to give a huge shout out to these two gentlemen who did an excellent job last week with me stuck in Hurricane Helene. I really wasn't, though, but I was in Disney and it was just impossible to get there. So Dutton, Fee, great job last week.
Thanks, Wayne.
Yeah, welcome back, Dutton. How we doing?
I'm good. I just saw you. I was in person, and now I'm
I
back
know.
seeing you on a computer.
Yeah. Fee, how you doing?
I'm good. Everything's good. The usual. Yeah.
The usual. It's week 5. We roll now. If you listen to the cold open, you know that this is the 99th episode that we've done. So next week's a big week. We're gonna have a huge celebration. Maybe we'll wear a hat or something. Maybe we'll have cake. Ooh, maybe we'll bring cake next week.
Okay.
We'll figure
Okay.
that out. Anyway, we got a lot to cover this week. A lot, we're in the heart. We're a quarter of the way through the fantasy football season, so there's a lot to talk about this week, and that means we're going to start things off with buy it or bullshit. I want to revisit a question that you two touched on last week, and you two debated that the Vikings, I believe, Dutton, you said the Vikings were the best team in football, and Fee, you went with the Bills, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to tell you you're both wrong, and we'll go to you first, Fee. Buy it or BS, the Chiefs are the best team in football.
That's BS. Especially not now with all the injuries that they have between Raji Rice now being done for the year, Pacheco is out, and Travis Kelce doesn't really look like himself. I think he's getting on the other end of the stick here in age related situation, but Mahomes is Mahomes, and he'll keep them in the playoff hunt and everything else, and they may make the playoffs, but I don't think they're the best team in the NFL.
Dutton.
I said it last week, and they went out and proved it, and I'll say it again: the Vikings are the best team in the NFL. Prove me wrong. Nobody can prove me wrong right now. Yeah, people say the Ravens, but if you look at the record, the Ravens are 2-2, and the Vikings are 4-0. So the Vikings are the best team in football.
You're both bozos, right? The Chiefs are they are the 2-time Super Bowl champ. And they've been to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years, right? They're 4-0. Like I could get behind what you're saying that Pacheco is banged up and Rice, I mean, he might be out for the year. That was a big one. But this team is, I mean, they won last year with McCole Hardman and the other guy that got cut from the Giants. I can't even remember his Kadarius Toney. Like, I don't care if it's Patrick Mahomes.
Do they benefit from their schedule?
Kareem Hunt looked like 2010 Kareem Hunt this past week. I'm sorry. I can't. I think the Vikings are sick. I do. I think the Vikings, they're balanced from top to bottom. They got a great offense going. But here's what I'm going to ask you, Dutton, since you're on Team Vikings. And this is me asking you, who said this preseason, I believed in him. 5 weeks from now, who are you going to have more faith in? Patrick Mahomes with questionable wide receivers or Sam Darnold?
Oh, well, that's an easy answer. It's Patrick Mahomes.
So then who is the best team in football?
But that being said, 5 weeks from now, are the Vikings going to be 9-0 and the Chiefs going to be 6-4? Or,
Well,
we're 6-3. So then we can have, but yes, I hear what you're saying. Yes, obviously, Patrick Mahomes is the difference maker. I could put Patrick Mahomes on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I could argue that they could be the best team in football. So, I mean, yes, I think there's an outlier there. But if we're looking, you just said it top to bottom. Right now, the Vikings are dominating every team they play. The Chiefs are a toe away from losing the first game. They're a missed field goal away from losing the second game. Like, so yes,
that's what the
I don't
Chiefs
know.
do. I don't think
No,
the
you're
Chiefs
right. It's
show their
exactly what they
card.
do.
The
People let them
Chiefs,
win. Yes.
the Chiefs don't show their card till January, and then it's over every year. They're just like, so what? We're going to be the wild card team. Who cares if we're 13-4 or 12-5?
That is valid.
They don't care about the record. And I'll go one step further. I'm going to go one step further. Wait, I'll let Fee. It looked like you wanted to throw something in there.
I was gonna agree with what Dutton said, but I still don't believe in them being able to consistently stay afloat here over the next few weeks, at least. Yeah, we'll see what happens towards the end of the year, but
Schedule dependent. It's all dependent on their schedule and who they're playing.
And injuries. I mean, we're going to have more and more injuries. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I'm going to come in with another hot take. Okay. Just to stay on the subject. Not only do I think the Chiefs are the best team in the football, I think Andy Reid is the best coach that we've seen, better than Belichick of the 2000s. He's the first team with 130, first coach with 130 wins on two different teams. He got his 131st win with the Kansas City Chiefs this past weekend. He had 130 with the Eagles, right? And then I know that everyone says, yeah, but with the Eagles, he could never win the big game. He lost to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and he lost a bunch of times to those Bucs defenses that 25 years later we're still talking about as one of the best defenses that ever played the game. The guy, he didn't. It was like calling Patrick Ewing a bad basketball player because he never made the finals while Michael Jordan was playing. You know what I mean? It's like Andy Reid was doing just about all he could with the team he had against some of the best competition in history. The Patriots and those Bucs defense. I think he's the best coach that we've seen this millennium. Maybe I'm crazy there. Either of you guys want to chime in on that?
I think he has flipped his script. If you give me a second, right?
I'm here.
When he was in Philadelphia, he could never win the big game. He lost to the Bucs defense in the NFC Championship game. He lost to the Saints in an NFC Championship game. Drew Brees. So yeah, but at the same time, the one time he went to the Super Bowl, he went up against Tom Brady. Bill Belichick loses that game, but yet they were in that game. That was a close game. I mean, they actually could have won that game. Now he's in the AFC, and let's be honest, the AFC West has been pretty easy for the Chiefs to win over the last 10 years. Okay, definitely in the Mahomes era, it's been easy to win, right? Then you look at the AFC in general, I don't know. There hasn't been a lot of contenders once Brady left to go to Tampa Bay and then retire. So I think he's benefited from that, but I'm not taking anything away from him. He's got Patrick Mahomes. He's got Travis Kelce. He's got Chris Jones on defense. He has some anchors with his time in Kansas City that he's built around, and he learned from his time in Philadelphia. He's a great coach. You're not wrong in saying it. He's a fabulous coach. And
so you're kind of going down the Buffalo Bills spiral, and when they went to 4 straight Super Bowls,
right,
because there was only the Broncos, pretty much all you had to do is beat the Broncos in the AFC. But you look at those Bills teams, and there were Hall of Famers everywhere on both sides of the ball. Patrick Mahomes has Kelce and not a whole bunch of other Hall of Famers on the offensive side of the ball.
And that's
and
where
here's
I was
the here's the catch. Here's the catch. Of those 4 Super Bowls the Chiefs went to, they've won 3 of them, whereas the Bills haven't. So I think that's the difference between Andy Reid and the Marv Levy and kind of
right. And who's the one Super Bowl Patrick Mahomes lost?
Right. To Brady.
Tom Brady.
Yeah. Yeah. Fee, what do you got to say?
The only thing I'll add to that is I agree with everything Dutton said. The only thing I want to add is, hey, listen, the Patriots were beatable. They came into a Super Bowl
Says the Giants
undefeated,
fan. Says the
Says the
Giants fan.
Giants fan.
undefeated, and the Giants beat them. So,
Manny Machado is beating the Braves right now.
By himself.
He just hit a double. They're up 3-1 Padres. Go ahead. All right, next on the list.
I want to revisit something you guys made fun of me last week for as well. Dutton was actually making more fun of me than you, Fee. So let's team up on Dutton here. Dutton said that Wayne gets mad. Wayne on his stick gets mad because he has to play with his backups.
You do.
That is
Everyone
not
does.
that. Let us talk about the case. Okay. I am not saying I have to play with my backups that I drafted in fantasy football, because on fantasy football, my backups are still wide receiver ones and running back ones on other teams. What I'm saying is, in fantasy football right now, we're playing with backups I've never even heard of. We picked up a guy, Johnny Wilson or Williams. I don't even remember his name.
Well,
the dude that started at tight end for the Cardinals this past weekend was drafted in the 6th round by the Dolphins and didn't even make the final cut on their team.
well, you
somehow
got lucky
starting
in the data
for the
last
Cardinals.
week. After Wednesday, all hell broke loose. I will admit that. After Wednesday's show last week, you definitely benefited from not one guy on the Eagles wanting to play or allowed to play. The Cardinals, yeah, for sure.
Dutton and my fantasy team, our starting wide receivers are Devontae Adams, Tank Dell, and A.J. Brown, and all 3 were out this week. I'm not saying we're playing that we have someone else on the bench. I'm saying we have to pick up Trey Turner, or I can't remember his name, on the Raiders because there's nobody else out there.
No, there is nobody.
Yeah. So I made this list. And Fee and Dutton. Well, Dutton helped me make it. So let's go over this. This is the list of people who were inactive last week and the round that the ADP that they went in. Cooper Kupp, round 3. Evan Ingram, round 6, who is one of the premier tight ends. Tank Dell, round 5. Joe Mixon, round 4. A.J. Brown, round 1. Devontae Smith, round 6. Christian McCaffrey still inactive, and he was 1-1. Isaiah Pacheco, round 2. Puka Nacua, round 3. Trey McBride, round 5. Devontae Adams, round 6. And then 2 guys that got hurt were Anthony Richardson and Rashee Rice, who are both high guys. Guys, what do we think about what's happening in the NFL now? Have we seen an injury blitz like this in our 28 years of playing fantasy football? Fee, go Fee.
I do vaguely recall there was a few seasons where there was lots and lots and lots of injuries that happened like this, where it kind of screwed up fantasy seasons one way or another. Now, this fantasy season is, I think, almost extra in the fact that there's been tons of injuries, and injuries to high-profile guys that have been taken in early rounds of fantasy drafts. But it happens every year. And
I don't know to this extent.
Maybe not to this extent, but there are injuries, and I think that in the fantasy world, you have to, or at least the season-long fantasy world, you have to try to navigate that by picking up free agents, trying to get backups of guys that that are banged up and could possibly have longer-term injuries, and it's a bit annoying, but it goes for everybody. Just because your team happens to have 3 starting receivers that are out now, there are other teams and other guys that have similar situations all over the place. So, everybody's got to deal with the injuries, and yes, it's annoying, especially if you're one of the guys or one of the teams that has multiple injuries that you have to overcome. But the only way to, combat that would be to not play season-long fantasy anymore and just do DFS, where you pick a new team every week.
To play counterpoint to you, though, like, talking about the depth of the injuries, like the Eagles and the Rams had 2 of the best wide receiving cores in football, and they were all out this weekend. All 4 of those receivers were out, right? Like, we are seeing teams absolutely decimated. And then what you said, because of specialization in fantasy football, I mean in NFL football, the third down back, the catching back, and all of this, it's not as easy. You used to be able to go and pick up the backup to a player and get a guy that's going to score 30 points in a game because it was the only backup. Look at the guys that went out there and spent money on Carson Steele 2 weeks ago. The guy had 6 yards this week, right? It's not easy to pick up the backup and just plug him in because you don't know if there's another guy in the wings because there's 800 different guys with 800 different responsibilities. So you know how many people started Carson Steele this week? It was like 94%. They got screwed. They got 6 yards from him, 0.6 points.
This guy.
Dutton, what do you got to say about the injury epidemic?
It's definitely interesting. I would love to see data. You know, I'm a data guy. I want to see like the comparison year after year after year. That being said, as someone this year who's now in 2 different leagues, one's a 12-team league with keepers, one's just a normal 10-team redraft league. There's definitely a difference in waiver wire, right? Between that 10-team league and that 12-team league, because in our league that the 3 of us share together, like we can go into our waiver wire and there's still some solid, like, hey, I can pick up this guy, or I know this guy's about to get dropped. Like in our league, Wayne, that you and I are in, like you and I are scraped. Like we sat at breakfast on Sunday morning, literally scraping the waiver wire.
Like, who is going to get 1 30-yard catch? That's what we were looking for.
That's literally the conversation we were having, Fiumano. He is not making it up. Like, who can we rely on to get a catch for 30 yards?
Yeah, I get it.
Mike
I mean, that's exactly
who
what
had
you
40
should
yards
do.
3 weeks in a row, and he had 0.1 yard. He had 10, like a yard. He had 1 reception for like 2 yards.
At one point, we were yelling at the TV, is even on the team anymore.
Right. I didn't think he was on. There was a tight end I didn't even know catching the ball. They had 3 tight ends on the field, and the 2 that I didn't know caught the ball, and Mike Gesicki didn't. He got nothing. But yeah, so it's brutal, right? And to your point also about our league, we have roster limits, so that does leave some fresh faces out there. Whereas the 12, it's not only a 12-team league, but it's a 12-team without roster limits. So every running back and wide receiver is gone.
Right.
Like you gotta strike gold to get the one guy out there. And we're not that bad a team overall record wise, so we're not at the top of the waiver wire.
I don't want to talk about our league a ton, but it's why I like roster limits, because there's actually guys on the waiver wire that you can pick up if you have injuries. Whereas in all these other leagues, like you said, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel and hoping for the best,
that argument.
because there's no one else to take, because there's nobody out there.
Yeah, no, I see validity in the argument. I don't see. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's play. Like I said, we're a quarter away through the season. It's time that we could play bust or no bust. This is kind of like a buy it or BS skit. So I wrote down a couple names that we've been talking about, and some of them had a little bit of a breakthrough this week, but maybe it was just the teams they were playing. So let's talk about it. Michael Pittman was a top 5 round pick, depending on what kind of league you were in, but he was going in the top 5 rounds somewhere. Fee, start with you. Michael Pittman Jr., bust or no bust?
Huge bust. I was one of those guys that took Michael Pittman, and he is nowhere near anything that you were expecting out of him. I don't know if that has anything to do with Anthony Richardson not being a guy that is very accurate or can get his receivers the ball. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it, but Pittman looked great last year, and he looks nothing like that this year. So big time bust.
Dutton?
He's a bust. 100% he's a bust. He's done nothing. I mean, he's such a bust that he's available in our league. So,
is he?
Yeah, he's a bust.
that is a good sign. We've talked about this gentleman a bunch. Dutton, we'll go to you because we're sitting stuck with him right now in our league. Mark Andrews, bust or no bust?
All right. Well, if you get points for blocking, he is the greatest tight end of all time. But because none of us get points for blocking, he's a bust this year. I mean, that's it. I mean, he was amazing Sunday night blocking as Derrick Henry ran for 199 yards. So, yeah, he's a bust because I don't know if the Ravens are going to throw to him very much because he's going to block a lot.
You know what my problem is he's only had 1 target each of the last 2 weeks, and he's dropped them both. It's
that
like he forgot he's on the field. He's like,
right.
oh my God.
Right. Oh my God, they're throwing to me.
Fee, bust or no bust, Mark Andrews.
Oh yeah, big time bust.
Especially where he went.
Right. I was just gonna say, especially where he was drafted. There's, he's just not the same guy anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if it's a car accident or if he's just getting long in the tooth, as they say. I never understood that expression. Do your teeth get long when you get old? What does that even mean?
It's like it has animals, right?
Yeah. As
Is that what it
animals
is?
their teeth grow longer. It's a sign of age.
Ah, so they're getting long in the tooth. I got to see a
Right.
man about a horse. DeAndre Swift finally had a good game, but is it too little, too late? Bust or no bust, Fee?
I said jury is still out on this one because where you drafted DeAndre Swift was probably like in the sixth-ish round, maybe. And while he has not been great, he's not injured and he's still on a team where they need to use him more. And I think they're figuring that out. So I just want to say jury's still out on it. I wouldn't say he's a bust yet.
I agree with Fee. I think last weekend was a sign of things to come. I think the Bears offense is figuring itself out. I think DeAndre Swift is going to play heavy in the new version of this Bears offense. So I would, if you drafted DeAndre Swift, do not get rid of him.
I pulled it up, Fee. If in a PPR league, he was anywhere I'm looking at like Yahoo, ESPN, CBS, all these little things. He's anywhere from 18th to 20th running back. So you figure that's like fifth roundish,
Fourth, yeah,
maybe fourth.
fourth or fifth.
So I'm going to agree that the jury's still out because I think it all depends on Caleb Williams and he's showing a little bit of life, and I think that opens things up for DeAndre Swift, not just blitzing all day long. Let's move on to a guy that we talked about a lot this preseason and nobody wanted to listen to us. Is Christian McCaffrey considered a bust? Because he was pretty much the consensus #1 overall pick, even though all three of us on this show told you not to make him the consensus #1 overall pick. Fee, bust or no bust?
I want to bring it up again. I had the #1 pick in one of my other drafts, and I took Bijan Robinson instead of Christian McCaffrey. Now, that has not been great. So maybe
It's been better. At least he's playing.
Right, at least he's playing and not injured. So I did myself a service by not taking Christian McCaffrey with the #1 pick. But I think at this point he has to be considered a bust because he hasn't even played yet. And if you took him in with the #1 pick or even in the first round, which you probably did, and he hasn't gotten you one fantasy point this year, and it's already, we're going into week 5 now, so he's got to be considered a bust at this point.
Dutton, bust or no bust?
He's a bust. He's a bust. I mean, you picked him first. If you didn't pick him first, you picked him second or third or fourth. If you didn't pick him in the first round, I want to join your league. He's a bust.
Nice. Yeah. And then I wrote, joking around, I wrote every freaking QB this season is a bust. We did see I feel like this was like the healthiest, hardiest quarterback scoring week. And Dak Prescott still sucked.
Yeah, but let's talk about the quarterbacks that were the highest scoring because
they're all written
down right here on this spreadsheet because those are the 4 right there.
Who are they?
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Because everyone was going after Jaden Daniels as the highest scoring fantasy quarterback. Jordan Love, CJ Stroud, and my favorite, Sam Darnold. Like, how? So yeah, those 4 had great quarterback weeks, right? But not the names you were expecting.
What do you look? I got to bring him up. Josh Allen was going in the second round. Josh Allen has 2 games where he hasn't thrown for 200 yards. Is he a bust? I mean, it's only 4 weeks in. I don't know if that's fair to call him a bust.
I think he's a fantasy bust, but I think here's the thing with Josh Allen. I think if you would have asked me, I would have stayed away from Josh Allen because I think we're going to see a different version of Josh Allen who's going to want to focus on winning rather than 400 yards and 5. You know what I'm saying? So
I got one for you.
Yeah.
What about Jalen Hurts?
He's a bust. He is a good one.
He has been not. I mean, and he was what, the third? Got to be at least the third quarterback pick taken, most likely. And
really, AJ Brown's a bust too.
He hasn't done much of anything, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, well, I had it open for you guys to bring up more guys that's a busts. I mean, look, here's the thing. What we're watching in Miami is Two is the injury, obviously, but Tyreek Hill, Jalen
Waddle,
Waddle, and
A-Chain.
were all top 3 round picks, right? And these guys, I don't look, they said the problem with the Dolphins is that it's really hard to learn their offense. And that's why Skylar Thompson and Tyler Huntley were struggling picking it up and doing well. I say that's like you got to be able to adapt to the quarterback that you have because injuries happen so frequently, especially with Tua. And it's inexcusable that a quarterback can't succeed with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. But that aside, are those 3 guys busts? Because it doesn't look like when is Tua coming back?
Well, first of all, yes, they're busts. Let's answer that question. Yes, they are fantasy busts, right? Second of all, who is going to sign off on Tua coming back? Because I do not want to be that doctor. I'm sorry. Like that, I'm not putting my name on that form at all. Like,
yeah. Fee, what do you think?
Well, I think they are. Yes, they are absolutely busts, just like Dutton said. And Dutton, I think whoever does sign off on it is going to have some sort of release form also signed where it says,
seriously,
"Hey, I'm letting you come back, but if anything happens after that,
not my
it's
fault.
not on me. This is all on you. This is your decision to make."
You know who's going to sign off on it? I'll tell you who's going to sign off on it. Dr. Vinny Boombots. That's the
Vinny
only
Boombots.
doctor that's going to let him play. Or
Wayne's
Dr.
favorite
Nick.
doctor.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Dr. Nick. All right. Was there any other guys that you think were big time busts that we haven't talked about yet? No. All right. I wanted to leave it open, but you guys brought up some good ones that I did not have on the list. So let's move on to, I got to take a look at last week's, but we're moving on to locks of the week. Last week, Dutton gave you the Texans, who won but did not cover.
Good Lord.
And Fee gave you the Jets, who did not win, and Dutton called was going to lose by 1 point.
Yes, really quick for the listeners out there. Wayne and I are watching Red Zone. It is 1:55 on Sunday afternoon. It is pouring rain in that game. I look at Wayne and I said, this game is going to come down to a last-second field goal, and the Jets are going to lose by 1 point. In my head, it was going to be the Broncos making the last-second field goal, not the Jets missing the last-second field goal to lose by 1 point. But I was pretty psyched that the Jets lost that game by 1 point.
Yeah. So we haven't been very much on fire this year. So let's turn it around this week and get some winners. Fee, we'll start with you.
All right, I'm going with you're gonna love this. I'm going with an 0-4 team who is a favorite. So, I don't know if we're gonna turn it around this.
Welcome to the 2024 NFL.
Yeah.
But I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars to hopefully win a game this week, -2.5 against the Colts.
I can't believe you're going against Flacco.
Joe Flacco. How do you go against Joe Flacco, who comes in and lights it up again because he's a fighting blue hen?
The only good week Michael Pittman had all year was with Wacko for Flacco. Dutton, who you taking?
I'm going across the pond for 9:30 a.m. football Sunday morning, and I'm taking the Minnesota Vikings to beat the New York Jets and cover the 2.5 points as well. That Vikings defense, Brian Flores has been dialing it up, and I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is prepared for what could happen on Sunday after what I saw the Broncos do to him last Sunday.
The Jets defense is very much for real. Like, let's remember, it was only 10-9, that Broncos.
Right.
I mean, what was it? What's his name? Bo Nix, -7 yards passing.
-7 yards passing and a half. That's what he had for the first half.
It's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
He had 3 completions for -7 yards.
So sure, -2.5. The Vikings win 3-0 that game because Sam. It's revenge day for Sam.
It's revenge day. Yes, I'm taking the Vikings.
Fee, I didn't want to type mine in here because I didn't want to break your heart, but I haven't got to watch football the past 3 weeks. But the Seahawks looked really good the other night, and I like the way Geno Smith was chucking that football. And I know it's 6.5, and I know the Giants have been playing inspired football, but they're also going to Seattle, and Seattle's a tough place to play. I don't like picking typically conference rivalries, and there was a whole bunch of those this weekend. So I am going to Seahawks -6.5 against the Giants. What do you guys say?
So real quick, the Jets potentially have the best secondary in the NFL. Now I'm not saying that the Vikings aren't going to beat them. As a matter of fact, I think we should take the Vikings because I think that's probably a good pick, especially going against the Jets in London and it only being a 2.5 point spread. So I like that pick, but the Jets defense is for real, so it is going to be a tough game.
Well, that's 2 votes for the Vikings.
I do like the Seahawks as well, but I was worried about the points. I think I don't know, as much as the Giants are bad, at least the Giants
How many
have been
points
playing
is it?
6.5. That's a touchdown.
And the Giants have been playing tight games. The Giants have been
right. Every game has been close.
Yeah, I'm good going with the Vikings if you want. I can't go with the Jaguars or the Colts because I hate both those teams as a Texans fan.
I can't pick a team.
I want to see this game end 0-0. Nothing would make me happier than to see these 2 clown shows end in a 0-0 tie. So we're gonna go with Vikings. That's we're locking. There's your 3-and-out pick of the week, ladies and gentlemen. The Vikings giving 2.5 to the Jets.
Sunday morning football
across the pond in jolly old London. That brings us to the 3rd down. Fanduel Fees, stacks of the week. Fanduel Fee, what do you got for us this week?
All right, so this week, I am going to the Green Bay Rams game. The Rams defense is pretty much non-existent. The way Jordan Love looked last week in the second half of that game made me believe that he is maybe not 100%, but good enough to steer that Green Bay offense in the right direction. And going against the Rams this week, I feel like that should only continue. He's 8,200 this week. But if you pair him with Dontavian Wicks, who's only 5,900, I think that is a spectacular play. Even on its own, I think that would probably be a good play. So that's stack number 1. Stack number 2, you just talked about Geno Smith and the Seahawks going against the Giants. That is very clearly an obvious situation there. He's only 7,400. And if you pair him up with DK Metcalf, he is 8,200, so he's priced up a little bit, but I think that's probably a pretty solid play no matter what. The Giants defense is not going to be able to slow down that passing attack. Stack number 3 is fairly unconventional because it's Justin Fields at 7,600 going against Dallas, but I don't have him stacked with any of his guys. I have him stacked with Jake Ferguson on the comeback at 6,200 in your tight end spot for Dallas. He's the number 2 option there. Dak Prescott, they've thrown the ball, I think, at a 67% clip or 68% clip over the last several weeks.
And the dude still hasn't passed for 300 yards.
They are not going to run the ball
How is that possible?
What?
You said they're passing the ball 68% of the time, and Dak Prescott still hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a game? How is that even possible?
Because he's probably not been very accurate, I guess. Either that or he's throwing 1-yard passes.
Right, thinking dunks.
But that just reinforces Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
And especially against that Steelers D, they're going to be coming, so he's going to have to dump that ball off even more. So I really like Jake Ferguson this week. And then two guys that I like real quick as one-offs. Josh Jacobs is only 7,000. I think that's probably a pretty solid play. I know I just talked about Green Bay's passing attack, but Jacobs at 7K I think is a little too low salary-wise. And there aren't a lot of low-salaried running backs this week. So I think that he's probably going to be the lowest you're going to get at 7K. And then I also really like Brian Thomas Jr. He is 6,300 going against the Colts D, who's probably the only D that's worse than the Rams at this point. But Brian Thomas, he's been getting a lot of looks. In all the statistics that you look at, he looks like he could have a breakout week this week. So Brian Thomas against the Colts.
I like it. I love the Wicks is going to be the hot commodity this week on the waiver wire, isn't he? Everyone's going to go after him. And I love the Jordan Love Wicks. I think you could start any wide receiver in that offense because he spreads the love How was that not a shirt? I just came up with it. Jordan
That
spreads
is
the
pretty
love.
great. Yeah.
Anyway,
Hmm.
well, now we were heading into fourth down. Let's see. Last week starts and sits. Did you guys record them? You guys did really well. Oh yeah, that's right. You gave Wayne on a stick starts. I loved my Chuba Hubbard start. I want to point out there is no universe. We got lucky that he had 2 touchdowns. There is no universe I would ever tell anyone to start Dak Prescott. I don't care
I
if
know, that's
it's
why it
on a
was
stick.
great. That's why Wayne on a stick was great.
So you guys, the consensus 3 and out starts last week were all hits. Great job, guys. It was Daniels again because Fee was that's pretty much Fee's lock of the week. You want to get his lock of the week? Daniels to McLaurin. Aaron Jones at the Packers in the revenge game. DK Metcalf had a great game, and then Turd Ferguson. So we 4 for 4 in starts last week. So let's get it going this week. We'll get started with Dutton at quarterback. Quarterback Dutton, let's go.
All right, this week you mentioned his name, you little jerk. You said his name before because I was bringing it home. Geno Smith, he was wheeling and dealing Monday night. I know the Seahawks lost, but Geno looked great. He looked awesome. Start him.
Yeah, I like it. He did. He looked great. And Fee, to you.
Justin Fields against the Cowboys. I mentioned him for Fanduel, and he's going to be my start this week.
And my start is Dak Prescott. No, just kidding. I would not say it. I'm going Caleb Williams against the Panthers. I think it's a terrible idea. But I think 2 weeks ago we saw him at least throw the ball for 350. And I know he had 2 picks, but he had 3 touchdowns. But in the way that the NFL is going with quarterbacks and it's a Panthers game, I think it's worth the gamble. Yeah, so I'm going with Caleb Williams at the Panthers this week. What do you guys think? I love Geno Smith.
Yep, that's good.
You lock in Geno?
Yep.
All right, let's go to Fee and get your running back start of the week.
I mentioned him earlier. Also Josh Jacobs against the Rams.
Done.
Bucky Irving against the Falcons. This is going to be a big Bucky Irving week, I feel. And by the way, Fiamma, I'm really mad at you for outbidding me for Bucky Irving last week. And Wayne, you outbid me for the Broncos defense by $1 as well. Go ahead.
I don't have the Broncos. Do I have the Broncos defense?
You picked them up today, yeah, for $2. All right, go ahead.
I did. Did I really? I don't know what's going on. I got Ramondre Stevenson against the Dolphins. Why did I do that? I have to check my notes. I believe the Dolphins have allowed the most rushing touchdowns in football. Yes, they have 7 rushing touchdowns the Dolphins have allowed. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. I like to watch him play. Jacoby Brissett, it seems like a nice fella, but the Patriots are only going to win if they run the ball. So I think Stevenson finds the end zone maybe twice this week. He may not have a big 100-yard day, but I think he's very much in the red zone usage. I actually like the Falcons defense. I think they've been playing pretty well despite them being so-so as a team. So I'm hesitant against Irving. Jacobs has looked good pretty much all year. What do we think?
I'm down with it. I think the Packers offense clicked the second half of that game last week. So
I like both Bucky Irving and Jacobs. So I'm
we can go Bucky Irving. Just I've said my piece. It scares me. Those Falcon and Thursday nights games scare me as well because you never get the best. But
he's gonna get a lot of screen passes. I'm feeling a lot of screen passes out of the backfield.
Let's go Bucky Irving. I could be sold. I'll start with wide receiver, and since you guys didn't pick him, is he an automatic start right now? But
he's not.
It's revenge week.
Pick.
It's revenge week, and Nico Collins is the best wide receiver in football, statistically speaking. And he is going to plow a field for Stephon Diggs to have 200 yards and 3 touchdowns against Josh Allen. There's no question in my mind. So Dutton, to you, wide receiver start of the week.
George Pickens against the Cowboys because their defense is blown up to shreds.
Yeah, now
I do like your pick. Your pick.
What's his name is out for a while, right? Who's their good defender?
Defensive lineman's out, and what's his name? The linebacker
might be out. He might be out. I thought he was. Why are we all 3 blanking on like the best?
I can't remember anybody's name. Micah Parsons is the linebacker.
Micah Parsons.
is the linebacker
Yes.
who might be out. And
That's
the
what I was
defensive
talking about.
lineman, I forget his name, but he's out.
Oh, DeMarcus Lawrence.
Yes, thank you, Fiamano. Good job.
Yep.
Way to pick us up there, buddy.
Yep.
And then a Fee. I like yours too.
Yeah, so I'm going with Deontay Johnson this week. So in the past 2 weeks with Andy Dalton, he has over 200 yards receiving. He's been ranked as a top 10 receiver both weeks in fantasy, and Andy Dalton targets him a ton. So go with Deontay Johnson this week.
Yeah. I like that pick.
I like it too.
I mean,
Because
he's always Deontay Johnson's always been a target machine. Even in Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
when it was Kenny Pickett, who could only throw the ball 6 yards, he was
Yep.
still getting 10 catches for 60 yards every week. Who do you want to start?
I like Deontay Johnson. I think it's a good one.
All right, let's do it. Let's lock that in. Tight end Fee, start of the week at tight end.
It's Jake Ferguson again because he is just crushing it with the Cowboys, even though the Cowboys suck. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Jake Ferguson.
I like it. Dutton.
Tyler Kraft against the Rams. There's a lot of Packers offensive players being picked this week. I see a trend here.
Yeah. I'm going with the guy that we picked up and dropped already. But if you believe that the 0-4 favored Jaguars are winning this game, they do target the tight end quite a bit, no matter who the tight end is. It's a big part of their game. And this Brenton Strange guy, he had a big game a couple weeks ago. So, and you know, I've talked about what I think about the Colts defense several times. Do I think Evan Ingram is going to be back? Is that the question?
So no, I was gonna say I think he is actually going to be back.
You think so? It still
well,
seems
that's what
very foggy.
Right. It's questionable, I think, but there's been signs that he's going to be coming back. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
Well, then I'm good making a Jaguars tight end. If it's Ingram, I'm saying start him even in his first game back. If it's Strange, I'm saying start him. So I'm good with making that Jaguars tight end. Do we just keep rolling with Turd Ferguson? Does he become our Kyle
DJ
Pitts
Hawkinson
last
lock of the
year?
week? Yeah.
The Turd Ferguson's lock of the tight end of the week. So let's review our 3 and this is a weird ass looking starting squad that we're giving you.
It's supposed to be
3 and out starting squad for the week. Start of the week at quarterback Geno Smith, running back Bucky Irving, wide receiver Deontay Johnson, and the Turd Ferguson tight end start of the week is Turd Ferguson. There you go. Let's move on to the sits of the week. Let's go back to last week where, gentlemen, you were 4 for 4 as well. You said to sit Anthony Richardson. You said to sit Rashad White. You said to sit Jalen Waddle. And you said to sit Travis Kelce. Great job there.
Crushed it.
So, yeah, let's go to sits. Dutton, we'll start with you at quarterback. Sit quarterback who?
This is my permanent sit for the rest of the lifetime. Deshaun Watson. Wayne was watching me watch him. No, you weren't there at that point. It was Jake, Benny's kid. Literally, how do you not throw the ball away on 4th down when it's the last play of the game? At least you have a chance for pass interference if you throw the ball into the end zone and instead you get sacked. He is terrible. He needs to sit. The Browns need to sit him. The Browns wasted their money. Deshaun Watson, sit forever. Why do you even have him on your fantasy team? Drop him, get him off. Deshaun Watson.
But Dutton, how do you really feel about Deshaun Watson? Can you
elaborate
a little bit more? Fee, what do you got?
I'm sitting Joe Burrow. He's only had one good game this year. He's only averaging like 14 fantasy points per game in the other 3, and now he has the Ravens D, who have looked very good recently. So I gotta sit Joe Burrow this week.
That's fair. I think we should call him Dick Prescott because that's what he's been to my fantasy team, a big, huge dick. So I'm going to tell you, and the Steelers defense obviously has looked pretty solid for the most part. I'm going to tell you to go ahead and sit Dick Prescott against the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. I wouldn't start any of these guys, so I'll let you guys make the pick about who you want it to be.
I like the Joe Burrow sit because that's who I was going to sit, and Fiamano already had it in there.
Then Joe Burrow it is. Running back, Fee. We'll start with you this week.
Yeah, I'm sitting Devin Singletary. He was terrible against a Dallas D who gave up thousands of yards to other running backs, and the Giants could do absolutely nothing. Now they're going up against the Seahawks D, who has been spectacular against opposing running backs, and so you got to sit Devin Singletary this week.
Okay, done.
I'm sitting Brees Hall against the Vikings. I feel like the Vikings defense is prepared for Brees Hall. They're going to try to make Aaron Rodgers throw the ball so they can sack him. So sit Brees Hall.
That's a bold statement. I think everyone's picking up, or if they have picked up, they're going to be starting Kareem Hunt. And I'm going to tell you to sit him because, as we've seen with the Chiefs, they don't care. They're going to play the guy that's getting them the yards. And I don't think Kareem Hunt. Plus, they're playing the Saints, right? Is that who they're playing? Saints on Monday night.
Yes, they are
Saints,
playing the Saints.
The Saints defense has been pretty stout so far. So I'm saying to sit Kareem Hunt just because I think he's going to be such a hot commodity after having a good first showing. Who do we want to lock in? I get what you're saying, and I do think you're right, but I can't consciously sit Brees Hall if I had him.
Okay, that's fine.
But I'm saying I do agree with you, but I still can't.
I hear you.
Brees Hall.
All right, Devin Singletary. Let's do it.
Fee?
I'm good with Singletary.
Do you agree?
I like the Brees Hall sit as well, but you're right that if you have him, it would be extremely hard to sit him.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I'm
yeah,
fine with going
exactly.
Singletary.
Unless you're sitting Brees Hall for Christian McCaffrey, who you know is 100% and playing his first game.
That's not happening.
But just
yeah. So okay, I guess we could go Singletary then.
okay.
I'll start with wide receiver, and I'm going to tell you Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going against the 49ers. And if there's nobody else healthy on the Cardinals, the 49ers are way too good, even when they're banged up, to not take him out of the game or take Kyler Murray out of the game. So I'm going a little big because he's been hot lately and telling you to sit him. Done.
I am sitting T. Higgins against the Ravens. I think the Ravens defense is solid, and I think we already talked about Joe Burrow, and T. Higgins is a good sit this week.
Hey.
I am sitting Jordan Addison, who last week scored 2 touchdowns and was playing out of his mind. Except now that we've talked about it, how the Jets defense and secondary are very, very good. I don't expect that to happen again. So make sure you sit Jordan Addison this week and don't get,
Fool's gold.
Yeah, don't get, right, that whole thing.
Suckered into another Jordan Addison
That's
big game.
Exactly. Suckered. Right.
There you go.
Thanks, Ben.
I got you.
Thank you.
These are all good picks because I think everybody would be starting these people. But if you're asking my opinion, I think Addison's going to be a hot start because of those 2 touchdowns. And I already said I think the Jets have the best. We were talking about it. The Jets do have the best secondary. In
Okay,
football.
so then who did you sit here?
Me, Marvin Harrison Jr.
Harrison Jr.
Is it not?
That's a
holy cow.
Yeah, because they're playing the 49ers.
Woof, woof.
Yeah, I'm going bold this week. I said it.
Wow. I guess we sit Marvin Harrison, right? I mean,
yeah, I'm sitting Marvin Harrison Jr.
As well.
You're going crazy?
Yeah.
I really like the Addison pick. If you don't want to go crazy, I was just going.
No, we're going crazy. If we're sitting Burrow and we're going crazy.
All right, tight end Fee. We'll start with you. Is it back to the Kyle Pitts tight end sit of the week season?
It is, man. Kyle. You got to sit Kyle Pitts for the rest of eternity. I think. I don't think he'll ever kind of pan out. I don't know. I mean, maybe if he went to another team that maybe used him differently, maybe, I don't know. He was supposed to be good again this year when they changed up the whole coaching staff, and they were supposed to be like, oh, we're going to use the tight end more because we have Kyle Pitts. And like, what do we got? Nothing. Like literally nothing.
Literally nothing. You're right. Literally nothing last week.
Right, exactly. And listen, they're playing the Bucks. The Bucks have a really good D. it's not going to be this week, that's for sure. So sit Kyle Pitts.
Done.
I'm sitting Evan Ingram. I don't really understand. He's questionable already, and the Jaguars' offense is very baffling to me. So Christian Kirk was unheard of for the first 3 weeks of the season, and then on Sunday he looked like he was the next coming of Jerry Rice. So who knows what's happening? I'm sitting Evan Ingram.
Christian Kirk always burns the Texans. That knucklehead. You know what, Dutton? You picked my start of the week at tight end. I'm going to go with your start of the week and Kraft at the Rams, and I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I think Jaden Reed, Jordan Love, like I don't think there's an alpha receiver, but I think Reed is one of his guys, right? Like that's established. They got a good connection. Obviously, he's there with Wicks. I just think there's too much other people in that offense that I don't think anyone else has a good week 2 weeks in a row, if that makes sense. So my pick is Kraft versus the Rams. I think we got it. I mean, it's the
Kyle
Kyle
Pitts.
Pitts.
It's Kyle.
I think
Kyle
we gotta go.
It's easily.
So we went a little bold on our 3-and-out starts and our 3-and-out sits of the week. I'm sorry. Burrow at quarterback, Devin Singletary at running back, Marvin Harris Jr., which I completely threw a dart at and was joking, and you guys agreed with me, at wide receiver, and Kyle Pitts. Before we go, gentlemen, I completely forgot, and we got to give a shout out to Jake. I forgot. We are going to look at Jake's lineup real quick before we wrap up the show because we didn't do that earlier, and I sent it to you earlier today. So here's the lineup we're discussing. Ready?
Ready.
And here's like something baffling. We'll talk about it after I read it. Quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Running back 1, Jahmyr Gibbs. Running back 2, DeAndre Swift. Wide receiver 1, Tyreek Hill. Wide receiver 2, DK Metcalf. Tight end, Brock Bowers. Flex, Zay Flowers. Defense, the Vikings. Kicker, Justin Tucker. And on his bench are guys like Hopkins, Keon Coleman, Brock Purdy, Christian Watson, who's out. Pacheco's on the IR. What do you think about this lineup? And then I'll tell you what I think.
Well, I think I think that he's probably struggling a bit. I got a bunch of guys that are injured or that are affected by injury, like Tyreek Hill. Brock Bowers is fantastic, so he has at least a good tight end. DK Metcalf is probably pretty good, but Tyreek Hill is not so great. Swift hasn't been great. And you know, the guys on the bench are kind of just whatever type of guys, and also having Christian Watson and Pacheco both injured,
Yes.
are a big problem. So, you know, he's got some waiver wire work to do.
Yeah, done.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of potential. I think injuries, like we talked about it earlier in the show, injuries are impacting everybody. So there's a lot of potential around this team. It'd be interesting to see what happens with this team as the weeks go by with the Tyreek Hill situation, and so forth. So I think that team is a team that when drafted, you were like, yeah, and now you're like,
That's exactly what I was going to say. If I had to grade a draft, Jake got an A. This team on paper before any injuries is sick. You got 2 top 10 running backs heading into the season. You got Lamar Jackson, who's obviously a top 5 fantasy quarterback. Tyreek Hill and DK Metcalf are 2 top wide receivers. We loved Brock Bowers all preseason, so we were all over that. And then your flex is Zay Flowers. And then, but as we said, 4 weeks into the season, we talked about DeAndre Swift as a potential bust so far, but we're on the fence about him. You know, Tyreek Hill, it's crazy how luck has hit Jake. Unfortunately, it definitely hit this team hard because if coming out of the draft, I don't think he could have drafted any better than he did. And then you consider he has Pacheco too, right? So his running backs would have been Swift, Gibbs, and Pacheco. Like, forget about it. Like, those guys stay healthy. That's crazy. So yeah, I'm with Dutton. Like, on draft day, you're really happy, but then I'm with both of you as well that luck just hit this roster pretty hard. And you know, if these guys come back healthy, he could still make a run. So we'll see.
Yep.
All right, that wraps up show 99, gentlemen. Don't forget to bring your big hats, and we'll bring a cake, and we'll have some fun next week to celebrate our 100th episode. I'm honored. I think Dutton's the only one that will have been on all 100, right?
Yeah.
There's never been a Wayne and Fee episode.
Yeah, no.
But there has been a paper bag fee and a Wayne on a stick episode. I can
There
tell
you
you that.
go.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, anything to add before we part for the evening?
No, I'm excited. Sunday morning football for the next 3 weeks in a row.
I will say, I want to say, hang in there. If you're, 1-3, 0-4, guys that are injured, hopefully will be coming back unless they're lost for the season or something like that. But hopefully you get some guys back from injury. Hopefully you're being able to work the waiver wire and get some guys that can at least get you some points. I would just say hang in there if you're 1-3 or 0-4. Try and make some trades. See what you can do trade wise in your league.
Yeah, I do. I agree with you. I think this is a year that you don't have to hit the panic button so quickly. If you can wait it out and scrape a few wins along the way until you guys are all healthy. All right, gentlemen, great show. We'll see you next week. Give us a like, give us a follow, leave a comment in down there below, and we'll see you next week on 3 and Out. Wait, did you like make a trade on the show and not tell us you were making a trade in our league?
Yeah, it was happening the whole time the show was going on. There was a lot of negotiations happening back and forth. It ended as the show was ending. It's finalized.
Well, what's the trade? What'd you say, Fee?
I want to say, can we hear what the trade?
So Shorty Longs are getting CJ Stroud, Amari Cooper, and J.K. Dobbins. And the Tomcats are getting Josh Jacobs, George Pickens, and Justin Herbert. It's to help we need Josh Jacobs and George Pickens. Justin Herbert is the who cares, like literally. Like I'm gonna drop him. It was just so that we didn't have to worry about waiting.
Probably should have chimed in on the show. We could have talked about it.
And you gave up Stroud and who?
Stroud and Cooper, and then J.K. Dobbins, who I'm not really playing that much.
Well, all this and more on 3 and Out.